It could be any happy family video, but this is all Claire Throssell has left of her two young boys. Jack and Paul were murdered by her abusive ex-husband after the courts decreed he must have unsupervised access to them.
They went straight up to the attic to see the new trains, and he put a bowl of sweets in the middle. He'd set so many fires it would have been impossible for Jack and Paul to get out anyway, and he had no intention of any of them coming out of that property alive. As they picked Jack up off the landing, Jack said to the fireman, he was still conscious, and he said, "My dad did this and he did it on purpose."
Tomorrow the government closes its consultation on its flagship domestic abuse bill. Charities believe it doesn't do enough to make it harder for abusive partners to have contact with their children.
Had they listened and acted on the information they had on my ex-husband, then Jack and Paul would be here now. I have to live with those decisions, and nobody writes a manual about how to be a parent, but nobody writes a manual about how to exist without them either.
Between 2005 and 2017, at least 20 children were killed by their abusive parents during contact visits. Yet family courts are still awarding unsupervised access to abusive partners in a third of all cases. And a quarter of survivors of abuse are still going through the trauma of being cross-examined by their abusers in family courts.
If the general public knew what was actually going on in our very secretive family courts, they would be horrified at the idea that people can in fact come from prison release and demand to have access to their children. They can be released from prison or have representatives asking for them to have access to their children. It's not a civilised system.
The service that should protect children and families in the court system insists the domestic abuse bill will change things for the better.
I think a bill on domestic abuse, given there's so little non-Brexit legislation, is hugely positive, and that the measures to try to think about domestic abuse as a public health issue and not simply inside individual cases is hugely important, and raising the profile through perhaps having a domestic abuse commissioner, stronger criminal orders, domestic abuse protection orders, will help with the long-term culture change in the family courts.
Claire Throssell would be devastated if the bill misses the opportunity to give other children the protection hers didn't have.
I don't want any more families having to learn to exist without the children when it could have been stopped in the first place.
Romilly Weeks, ITV News.